History is often told through its epic turning points: Hastings, Waterloo, Stalingrad. We learn these names in school, we see them in movies. But what if I told you that some of the most crucial battles, the ones that truly shifted the course of civilization, are gathering dust in the footnotes of history? These are the forgotten conflicts, the unsung clashes whose echoes still shape our world today, even if we don't realize it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on these pivotal moments and give them the spotlight they deserve. We'll travel from the sun-baked plains of ancient Mesopotamia to the icy waters of the North Atlantic, uncovering the stories of battles that, had they gone the other way, would have created a world you wouldn't even recognize. Let's begin our journey in the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, around 1270 for BC. Most people have heard of the legendary clash between the Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses II and the Hittite king Muwatalli II at Kadesh. It is famous for being one of the largest chariot battles ever fought and for resulting in the world's first known peace treaty. History often paints it as an Egyptian victory, or at least a stalemate, but here's the twist. While Ramesses II was a master of propaganda, claiming a glorious triumph back home, the strategic reality was quite different. The Hittites, though suffering heavy losses, effectively halted Egypt's northward expansion. They maintained control over Syria and the crucial trade routes that ran through it. This forgotten outcome of Kadesh had massive consequences. It solidified the Hittite Empire as a major superpower for another century, creating a balance of power in the Near East that allowed smaller cultures, like the Phoenicians and Israelites, to develop and thrive in the buffer zones. Without the Hittite check on Egyptian power, the cultural and political map of the ancient world could have been completely redrawn. Now, let's jump forward nearly 2,000 years and head to Europe, to the year 732 AD. You've probably heard of the Battle of Tours, where Charles Martel, the Hammer, famously stopped the Umayyad Caliphate's advance into France. It's often hailed as the battle that saved Christendom. But what if the more decisive battle was fought 15 years earlier in a completely different city? I'm talking about the Second Arab Siege of Constantinople in 717 to 718 AD. The Umayyad Caliphate, at the height of its power, threw a massive land and sea force against the capital of the Byzantine Empire. We're talking about an army of over 100,000 men and a fleet of nearly 2,000 ships. It was a siege of epic proportions, meant to snuff out the Eastern Roman Empire for good. Had Constantinople fallen, the gateway to Europe would have been wide open from the east. The Umayyads would have had a direct, strategic route into the Balkans and beyond. But the Byzantines, led by Emperor Leo III, held firm. They used their secret weapon, Greek fire, to devastate the enemy fleet. A brutally cold winter and a timely alliance with the Bulgars, who attacked the Arab army from the rear, sealed the invaders' fate. The Umayyad loss was catastrophic. It crippled their navy and drained their resources, significantly weakening their ability to project power. The failed siege arguably did more to halt the Caliphate's expansion into Europe than the Battle of Tours, securing the Byzantine Empire as a Christian bulwark for centuries to come. Our next forgotten battle takes us to the Far East. When we think of the Mongol Empire, we think of an unstoppable force, a whirlwind that swept across Asia and into Europe. Genghis Khan and his successors created the largest contiguous land empire in history, but they weren't invincible. In 1260, at a place called Ain Jalut, in modern-day Israel, the Mongol tide was finally turned. After the Mongol general Hulagu Khan had sacked Baghdad, ending the Islamic Golden Age, he sent an envoy to the Mamluk Sultanate in Egypt, demanding surrender. The Mamluks, an elite caste of slave soldiers who had taken power, chose to fight. The Mamluk Sultan Qutuz met the Mongol army, led by the general Kit Buka, at the Spring of Goliath, or Ain Jalut. Using a clever feigned retreat tactic, the Mamluks lured the Mongols into a trap and then counterattacked with their hidden forces. It was a brutal, decisive Mamluk victory. This was the first time a Mongol army had been permanently prevented from expanding its territory. It shattered the myth of Mongol invincibility and saved Egypt and North Africa from conquest. More importantly, it ensured that Cairo, not Baghdad, would become the cultural and religious center of the Islamic world for the next 250 years. The survival of the Mamluk Sultanate, thanks to this one battle, preserved countless works of Islamic art, science, and literature. Let's sail north to the icy waters of the 14th century, to a conflict you've likely never heard of, but whose outcome directly influenced the Age of Discovery. I am talking about the Battle of Sluys in 1340. This was the opening engagement of the 100 Years' War between England and France, and it was a naval battle. The French, aiming to stop an English invasion, gathered a massive fleet of 200 ships and blocked the Zwin estuary, the approach to the port of Sluys in modern-day Netherlands. King Edward III of England, commanding a smaller fleet, took a huge risk. He sailed directly at the French fleet, which was chained together in a defensive formation. Using the wind and tide to his advantage, and employing the superior skill of his longbowmen, the English systematically destroyed the French fleet. It was a complete and utter disaster for France. They lost naval supremacy in the English Channel for a generation. Why is this forgotten battle so important? This English dominance of the sea allowed them to land armies in France at will, prolonging the 100 Years' War, but more profoundly, it established a tradition of naval power and innovation in England. This focus on maritime strength, born at Sluys, would eventually evolve into the Royal Navy, the force that would build the British Empire and project European power across the globe. Without Sluys, the seeds of British naval dominance might never have been sown. Finally, let's head to the Americas, to a battle that helped create the United States, but is often overshadowed by Yorktown or Saratoga. The Battle of the Saints, fought in the Caribbean in 1782. During the American Revolution, France was a crucial ally to the American cause. Their navy, in particular, was a major threat to the British. In 1782, a huge French fleet under the Comte de Grasse planned to rendezvous with a Spanish fleet to launch a joint invasion of British-held Jamaica. Taking Jamaica would have been a devastating economic and strategic blow to the British Empire. However, a British fleet, led by Admiral George Rodney, intercepted them in the Saints Passage between Guadeloupe and Dominica. During the battle, a sudden shift in the wind created gaps in the French battle line. In a bold and unorthodox move, Admiral Rodney broke with traditional naval tactics and sailed his ships ** through * the French line, a maneuver called breaking the line. This threw the French formation into chaos, allowing the British to rake the French ships with cannon fire from both sides. The result was a stunning British victory. The French flagship and Admiral de Grasse himself were captured. This victory was a massive morale boost for Britain. It restored their naval prestige and, more importantly, it strengthened their hand at the Treaty of Paris negotiations. It ensured that Britain would retain its valuable Caribbean colonies, providing the economic foundation they needed to recover from the war. While America won its independence, the Battle of the Saints guaranteed that Britain would remain a global naval superpower, setting the stage for its rivalry with Napoleon and its dominance in the 19th century. From Kadesh to the Caribbean, these forgotten battles were the hidden hinges upon which history turned. They show us that victory and defeat aren't always what they seem, and that the most impactful events aren't always the most famous. The world we live in today is a direct result of these overlooked clashes, of the courage, strategy, and sometimes sheer luck that played out on these forgotten fields of conflict. What other unsung battles do you think deserve more recognition? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the hidden corners of history. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the past. We'll see you next time.